Hi, how's it going? Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about the GRE subject test in literature. I'm just going to be giving you a quick overview, some facts about the test and what to expect. First thing you should know, it's a very quick paced test, okay? So it's only 2 hours and 30 minutes long. I say only because if you've taken the SAT or the regular GRE, the subject test is fairly short compared to those tests. However, there are 230 questions on this test, and these questions aren't going to be the sort of questions that you can just glance at and mark the answer. Well, some of them will be, but for the most part, you're going to have to read the passage, think about it, and analyze a little. So when I'm telling you that there are 2 hours and 30 minutes, or 2 hours, or 150 minutes, and 230 questions, you see that there's only a little bit more than 1 minute for each question, right? So use your time wisely. Now, this brings me to my next point, all right? You lose points for guessing on this exam, okay? It's important to know that in general, people who take this test don't do very well, okay? So the test scorers take that into account, and as long as you do better than most people, because that's how these are scored, you're going to end up fairly high. You're going to be in a higher percentile. So one of the tricks for doing well in this test is not guessing wildly. Don't just use your best guess. If you just don't know the answer, leave it blank, okay? If you have absolutely no idea what literary term they're using, and it's an epic invocation, say one of the answer is really epic invocation, and you just don't know, you've never heard any of these literary terms before, don't respond. Or say you've never heard of any of the authors that they're wanting you to name, all right? Say the options are Flannery O'Connor and all these different ones, right? And the only one you've heard of is Flannery O'Connor, but the passage is extremely dark and dense, and there's nothing funny about it, and doesn't sound Southern, and there's no references to Jesus or God or anything like that. And you say, okay, clearly this is not Flannery O'Connor. It could be any one of these. Don't guess. Leave it blank, all right? Because you're better off not guessing and probably raising your score that way. Guess when you can cross out a few of the answers, which brings me to the next point. Every answer choice you have 5, or every question you have 5 answer choices, okay? And it's going to be A, B, C, D, or E. And you have scratch paper, so it's a pencil and paper test. No computerized for the subject tests yet. It's offered 3 times a year, in April, November, and December. So if you're like me and you're planning on taking your test and then applying to graduate schools, you're probably going to want to be able to take it in November. So that way you can hopefully get your scores back and apply in December, right? All right. What to know? Well, a lot. It's a very hard test. It's going to cover people like to say it's everything from Beowulf on, but that's not really actually representative, because a lot of stuff from before Beowulf is on there too. I mean, you're going to have stuff from Ovid. You're going to have plenty of Greek myth that isn't covered in Homer and Virgil, who isn't Greek, as you all obviously know. So there's plenty to know that's before Beowulf. However, there are some things that you can do to prepare. Okay, first of all, when you're actually taking the test, I'm stealing this from the Princeton review book, which, by the way, is a great thing to invest in. It's not at all the only thing that you want to use, but it is a good thing to buy. Okay, 2 things you want to buy. The Princeton review book, and if you don't own the Norton Anthologies of British and American Literature, purchase them. You can get them online for not too expensive, probably $20 used. You'll want to purchase them. But I'm guessing that if you're going to graduate school in literature, you already own them. What else? You can find lots of great places online that will help you study, and if you go to my website, grechicks.com, you can actually follow my blog and use a lot of my study tips, and I also have links to other places that are really, really valuable, okay? So please go to my website. I have a link to a reading list that will tell you what things you will want, what literature is covered on the test the most. So for instance, John Milton, is the #1 most tested man on the literature GRE, right? Or the literature GRE subject test. So you want to know Milton. Does that mean you have to read all of Paradise Lost and everything else that Milton wrote? Not necessarily, but you want to understand Milton, understand his themes, understand how he wrote, understand that he wrote in blank verse, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so you'll want to know Shakespeare. Now, this is probably good for you because if you are going to graduate school in literature, most likely you've had to take an undergraduate Shakespeare class, and that will probably do it for you. You need to be able to recognize Shakespeare's major famous lines, or like major ideas from Shakespeare. You know, the famous ones like, what's one most famous? You know, like A Rose by Any Other Name or something like that. Okay. You'll want to know the basic literary terms. Please know these. Know literary theory. Be able to distinguish post-structuralism from structuralism. Know who Clent Brooks was. Know who Harold Bloom is. Know who Derrida is. If you don't know who Derrida is, don't go to graduate school in literature. All right. And know what he did, of course. Know what difference is. Know Homer. Know the basic ideas from Homer. Know at least the basics of the Greek gods, right? Okay, so know the basic Greek legends of Narcissi, Dionysus, and so on and so forth. You want to be able to identify these names from off the top of your head. Know the time periods. So if they say the Romantics or the Elizabethan or something like that, know what that means. Okay? And know grammar basics as well. Last but not least, this is a great tip. Do not take the test that they have listed on the GRE subject test website first to test your knowledge. I suggest taking that test very last as like a final preparation, okay? You can find other tests that you can use to test your knowledge that will be reflective as well, but that one is probably going to be the most accurate and the most like the actual test. So once you've been studying for a long time, that's the one you'll want to use, okay? Does that make sense? So don't use that one just right off as like a kind of flippant, like, oh, what do I know about literature? Let's find out. Postpone using that. Don't use it to like inflate your ego or anything like that. Find another one. Buy the Princeton book. Take that one. Just ask yourself some questions. Go meet with one of your professors and have them ask you questions. There's plenty of other ways to inflate your ego about what you know. But use that test maybe a month before you actually are scheduled to take the real test, because that one is going to be closest to the real test, and it will let you know the holes in your knowledge, so you don't know anything about theater. That way you can say, crap, I don't know anything about theater. And you can go to the library and you can rent some movies, and you can say, I'm going to watch A Streetcar Named Desire, I'm going to watch Endgame, I'm going to watch, and so on and so forth, and you can fill in at least some holes, and then you can read some summaries of Chekhov, and you can get to know theater as quickly as possible in that last month, and that's why you want to put off that last test. All right. My name's Alicia. Go to grechicks.com for more information about the literature GRE subject test as well as the regular GRE vocab and math. Hope you have a great day. I'm studying for my GRE and my literature GRE right now. So if this video helped you, you can send me an email at grechicks@gmail.com, or you can follow me. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to, know what's helping you. All right. Have a great day. Thanks.